Hi, I'm Claudine Chiarmonte.
And I'm Marc Chiaramonte, and welcome to
Breakthrough
the Ordinary podcast. We bring you thought leaders, influencers, people of wisdom, and trainers and coaches around the world. And today we have an amazing guest.
Yes, I am thrilled to have Diane Carozza, a 2006 graduate of the Institute of Integrative Nutrition, and she is an accredited holistic health coach by the Association of Drugless Practitioners and Columbia University. She promotes a wellness lifestyle and endorses regular physical activity as a key to physical, mental, and emotional health. She does have a corporate career, 30-year corporate career in the pharmaceutical industry. She has a passion for dance and has remained active in all forms of dance for more than 45 years. And the love of dance supports her overall wellness, and her two daughters keep her on her toes.
So it's great to talk to you again.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your heart and your wisdom around COVID and everything from your business side to personal life. So we're really happy to have you back.
And it's great to be here.
I wanted to really ask you to now share about your life, share about what you do dance-wise, physical health, emotional health, and even share how we met. So
Sure.
That's where we could start.
Okay. So it was my birthday, February of 2008, and I had just gone through the biggest transition of my life as far as a change in my corporate career. And I was beginning to separate from a long marriage from my high school sweetheart. And so I was looking for more. I was looking to understand myself more and surround myself in different circles of people with like energy. And walked in the room, and there was Marc. And the funny thing that I'll make Marc chuckle, that he's not going to remember, I don't think, but I told him one day, was that years before that, I mean, not that many, it was maybe 3 years before that, I had come across an intuitive who the first thing she said to me when I sat down with her is, "Who's Marc?" I said, "I have no idea." And she said, You don't know who Marc is?" And I said, "No, I don't know a Marc." She goes, "Oh, you're going to know a Marc."
Oh, you're going to know her.
And so,
Oh, yeah.
and she's like, "I don't mean like that, but he's going to play an important role in your overall journey. So be on the lookout for Marc." And so we're going around the circle that night, and he says, "Marc." And I'm like, "I wonder." And you've been it. So
she was clear that it wasn't going to be like a romantic relationship, but that I was going to have
going to be part of my journey, a significant part of my journey.
Is this a TCM class? Or
Yes.
is it, oh, I
Yes,
realize that.
yes,
Okay.
yes. So
I just want to explain that for people. We were in a class and teachers that taught around the world and internationally, and it was really about using energy and transforming your cellular memory through work and trauma work and all that. And so it was deep, very deep work. So.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and you played a very significant role, as you know, in my learning through that group experience. So, yeah, it was in the cards.
Wow.
Yeah, it was written.
It was written out there. It was our path to take together somewhere along the line. Yeah.
Well, I'm wonderful it happened because
Yeah.
You're a wonderful person.
Thank you.
And I remember those moments when all that came up around your ex and
Yeah.
What it would take for you to move on and step into your power and all that.
Well, you're the one that looked at me now and said, "What are you afraid of?" And then I started to answer it, and you shook your head at me, and you said, "What are you really afraid of?"
You want to give the answer?
I didn't have one. What it did, though, I didn't have a single answer. But that is one of the most pivotal moments of my life. And because my true fears versus the fears that I just put in front of me, because I told myself I'm not doing it because you're afraid of failure, you're afraid of whatever was seemingly the answer because it was very obvious. It made me really be much more introspective about what the deep fears were about allowing myself to move on, because this time of my life, I had just lost my 17-year career with this job that I thought was going to be my lifetime career with the largest pharmaceutical company in the world. And not that I loved the job so much, but I was so committed to it and believed in it and believed in what I was doing and couldn't see the path forward or how I could do it any other way but that. And my 15-year marriage was coming to a close, and my 15-year-old dog died. So it was a lot of endings, and it brought up a lot of fear that I had not thought of before. And so it really was at this crossroads that I opened myself up to a different way of experiencing life and love and resonance with people that I had great joy meeting for the first time, like Marc, and the safe space that it allowed for me to think about and truly feel the fear that was coming up, which is what apparently brought me there in the first place.
Sure. So tell me, even if we use that as an example or another time, but what did you ultimately do to recognize the fear was a story, though ingrained in your soul, and your cellularly, but to move past it, through it? How do you see that?
I had perceived myself to date in the way that I had been perceived.
Motion detected at the front door.
Uh-oh. We have
energy is perceived. Even Alexa picked up on that.
An invisible energy coming around.
Exactly. So I had really perceived myself in the way that I had been perceived. And that was a very strong influence because my parents had this vision of who I was to be in this world. And that's what I took on. And I was with my husband from high school, and he was really just an extension of that. We were raised together in that same idea of what Diane was to be. And so, when I was faced with all 52 cards in the deck and thrown up in the air, I really had to consider, who am I, not who am I perceived to be. And that was the awakening for me. That was when I had to start to shed the personas.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, wow, is that juicy question, right?
You went right in there.
No, because it is like we're always in that space of who am I?
Yeah.
Who am I in this moment? And who
Right.
am I in this moment?
Yes.
And right, and it does transform and shift if we seek it to, but even those who are not asking are still shifting. Wow, thank you. And so who are you today?
I'm a big evolving mess. I don't like to put any labels on it because I feel like it changes by the moment, and that's the biggest change in who I am, is accepting the comfort in the discomfort. That's the way I actually tell that to the people who work on my team. I tell them all the time, I want you to find comfort in the discomfort because I always want you to feel a little uncomfortable. I want us to be changing and growing, even professionally with the way I run the team that I'm responsible for. I want us to be changing and growing and adapting and be able to be resilient and adaptive to whatever we're facing in the moment. And if we're too set in our perceptions of what that is, we're going to stagnate. And that's when the fear is going to come in, because when that starts to change, resistance and fear are going to come in. So I don't really have an answer.
No, I loved your answer, and I love that. Right? I'm always
answer.
about the mess.
Yeah.
We all are messy, right?
Yeah,
like
no,
the
I'm
mess
messy.
is in the message.
Yeah, right now I'm about as messy as I've ever been, too. So
Well, congratulations for achieving that level of messy. Way to go,
happy
Diane.
for you.
I'm a hot mess,
There you
actually.
I'm just curious because I have my story of scientists, and I'm thinking, right? We scientists have this story of or perception, or like we make up that they have to find this exactness, this derivative, like this cause root analysis, and there's a precision in that, or right, there's a finite. We can trust this. This is fact, and yet I'm hearing you say you balance that with this internal model of no, we're always flowing, we're always evolving.
Well, I think it's actually a misperception of science, actually, because all we know is what we know in the moment. And so, the scientific method is based on hypotheses. So you're always testing the hypothesis of today. And, there's a lot of controversy out there where people say, well, you told us this many months ago that this was hard and fast, the facts. Well, then it was, because at that time, based on the facts that we had, the theories that we were putting behind that were based in the facts that were available. And so there is a precision to that, but that is not, the scientific method is all about testing hypotheses, is the constant questioning. That's what a hypothesis is. It's a question. And the method of testing that and validating it is more questioning. You've got to pummel it with questions from every angle so that when you reach a conclusion, there's real confidence behind it, because you've explored every objective way to consider that is known to date. And so I think that's where the balance comes, is accepting that, is that for today, this is all I know is the truth. And being open to not being so firmly steadfast in that's going to remain the truth forever, because tomorrow there's going to be something else introduced, and you have to be open to it, or then there's no evolution at all.
Such wisdom.
Yeah.
I could say from my own journey is it's always letting go of beliefs or anything I'm holding on to. My son has been one of the greatest teachers with that, from whatever health conditions in the beginning, because I thought, life had to be this way and you eat this way, and through whatever health things we had with him, it couldn't be the way I thought it was supposed to look like or be. And even now, I watch certain things with him. I was taught something totally different in science, and now I'm watching and they're going like, infinity? It's not infinity. There's beyond infinity. I'm like, well, what are you talking about? There's all these.
You said.
and it really, and I look at life, it's good wisdom for all of us, is that we are always changing, and don't hold on to your beliefs, because the second you start holding on too tightly, you miss life, you create resistance and fear. And I just want to bring up a line is that I kind of created and took some from the Course in Miracles, is anytime we're in fear and resistance, we're in competition with God. Whatever God is to your spirit,
Right,
whatever.
right.
It's like you're trying to compete or think I know, or I'm going to hold on to, and God's going, oh no, I'm so vast, so changing. You're only picking up specks. Like you think electrons are molecules, and really we have never even seen an electron, and it doesn't go around in a circle like I learned in school. It's just a vibrational path, and they're picking up things, and it's random. And so that wisdom, even in the emotional work, and realize, don't hold on. Yeah. And I learned that even when we met, that transformation is like, no, it's always changing. It's never in that one spot, and something comes up and it's like, oh, don't hold on to that. There's something new. And to me, that's the way of evolution and growth.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you can resist, and as my sister said, you're still going to grow and change a little. But
because if you don't choose to, it's going to happen to you anyway.
And better to choose it and know what you're working with
Exactly.
than to let it smack you in the head,
Upside
as I say.
It always does.
It always does. Yes.
And
The
it's
hammer
painful.
or the feather.
That's right.
That's it, right? Like what Tony Robbins says, most humans do shift from pain.
Yeah, right.
Right? Go back to equilibrium. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to change with the feather. Can I just?
Yeah, right. Can we go back a little bit?
I've had enough banging to the head, all right?
Yes. But I do appreciate you, breaking that down too, that the way we have science. And even in my own languaging of that question, I realize that I hold true to beliefs or ways that I can compartmentalize, label, and go, oh, well, that's how I got science, right? So that's fine. I can move on to the next thing. And that box limits, right, an experience, a knowledge that I get to have or share with others. So I appreciate you illuminating that through that example. Certainly, that's great.
I didn't realize you were so wise. I knew you were wise. Don't get me wrong. I know your heart. I know you're wise. I'm sitting here and I'm like, wait, do I know that? Like, wait a second. This is beyond.
Peeling the onion.
It's beyond the ordinary. She's beyond the ordinary.
Yes, she is beyond the ordinary. Living that extraordinary life in many ways.
And that awakening, if we go back to losing the career, the dog, the marriage, and that pivoting, what was the awakening? What did that open up for you?
Well, first thing that comes to mind is that I'm more resilient than I give myself credit for. And the awareness of fear. So I never, everyone's perception of Diane was fearless. I will blast my way through anything and get through anything. And I never thought about fear like that. So just back to that. I mean, it's how I knew that was the mark, because identifying fear for me, because I wasn't really afraid of much, but what really shocked me, and what I've just come to kind of recognize, is that everybody gets brought to their knees by something that completely surprises them. So the fact that losing my career, that again, this wasn't like my lifelong dream of what I was doing. I felt very good about it, but I was devastated. I was rolled up in a ball for days, and the hole was deep and the dirt was coming on my head. And I'm saying, what is going on? What is happening here? Why is this taking me out? Like, I would think, getting a terminal illness or losing a loved one. But this, I'll find another job. And it was the fear of not being able to take care of myself and my girls, because I grew up with this fierce sense of independence, because I had such a very strong, overbearing mother and parents. And in order for me to be able to live as myself, I needed to just show up and say, I know it's okay. I could do it my way. They saw me as defiant, but as I got older and I realized I just had to exert that independence, otherwise they would have overcome me. And so, here, now all of a sudden, I couldn't take care of myself. I couldn't take care of my kids. I had always told my husband, he never really had lived out his full potential. And I would say, just take the risk and do whatever you think is going to make you happy. Walk out the door with a smile on your face and come home skipping at night. Because I was like, we're never going to live a lavish life, but I can put food on the table for us. I can keep a roof over our head. And now all of a sudden I was like, how am I going to put food on the table? How am I going to put a roof over our head? And what sealed the deal for our separation was, he said, you'll figure it out. You always do. And in my moment of my deepest vulnerability, that was his response to it. And I was, infuriated by that, because I saw no way out of the hole. So recognizing the fear, recognizing I was more resilient, and then starting to trust that if I just opened myself up and kind of just put myself out there, that the right thing would come to me, which is exactly what happened. And when it came to me, I didn't even recognize it, because I had such a picture in my head that, I just had to go right back into doing what I was doing, and that's what I'm good at. And so someone approached me with an opportunity, and it was still in the pharmaceutical industry, but he was asking me to take on more of a technology role. And I said, I could barely answer email, right? And he goes, I could teach you the technology part. I can't teach anybody what you know about the industry and the way it needs to be changed. And essentially this was like the start of having, technology start to improve processes that were antiquated and made no sense and didn't offer transparency and things like that. So all of a sudden, having someone believe in me in ways I never believed in myself, that had never happened to me before. He saw something in me that I never saw in myself, and no one had ever done that to me. And it just burst me wide open that someone could see me that way. And granted, it was professionally, but that was huge because it was the first time I'd ever felt seen.
Yeah.
And that was a very big turning point. Wow. And a challenge to me to allow myself to be seen more than I ever had.
Great. To be seen, to be heard.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Who you are. Oh, that's
Yeah.
beautiful. You still in relationship with him? That person that invited
Oh yeah.
you?
Yeah. I tell him, you changed the world for me. And the funny thing is he's a few years younger than me, but he's brilliant at what he does. And he's one of those brilliant scientists that gets the bigger picture. And I remember when we got to know each other personally, that we were at a meeting once, and he was like telling me his picture of what the ideal, if he ever were to create a company himself, what it would look like, and what, I'm like, I'm in there, And he started to ask me, what do you do to balance this all out? And everybody knows I dance, and I told him that I belonged to this energy healing circle, and he's like, no shit. And, in his own way, he hadn't done anything exactly like that, but in his own way, he was exploring something similar, and all of a sudden we had that connection too. And that was then the added trust that all of a sudden I had in him, because I knew he was part of the journey too, very intentionally. That was the affirmation that I can trust this. And yeah, it's many years later now, and we're good friends, and we connect, and he's evolved quite a bit since then. It opened him up too.
Wow.
Yeah. I was just, as you were speaking, something really came to me. And it was, what are you doing now? Like, where's your stretch now? Where is the place that you need to step into? Or where's fear calling or knocking on the door and going, Diane, it's time? Or
You're always good for this, Mark. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Welcome. You on the podcast.
Right to go in there. So my challenge, my real ultimate challenge, is really living in full vulnerability. Because for as long as I have felt responsible for these children who are now adults and are on the cusp of flying the coop, I can't hide behind that anymore. So my whole purpose is, if I ever wanted to take the chances and certain risks, it was, but what if everything else crumbles?
Motion detected at the front door.
Again,
Oh my God, you're powerful.
Seriously, this is.
it never happens, and all of a sudden it's happening all the time.
We've got guests that want to join us.
Yes.
And so that's really it, where I know that that's one of those personas I've hidden behind, is like mom to me, because I was a single mom that was completely responsible for my children for a very long time, financially, logistically, emotionally, everything, that need to care for them fully, and not to be misinterpreted. I mean, my kids have had to take a lot of responsibility in their life, especially because I've worked as much as I have between my corporate job and my health coaching job and all of that. They've learned to have to take care of themselves very much. I see us more as like just a well-oiled machine, just kind of do the right thing, But they're about to fly the nest. My older one has graduated college. She has a job. She is disappointed that COVID already kind of put her on a different trajectory than she thought that she was going to start off with. And my younger one is going to her junior year of college, and she wants no part of coming home. Like, this kid is shooting to the moon. Right from, and whether that's what happens or not, I've had a set of goals as far as like living where I live and doing what I do until I could kind of put them out into the world in a way that I feel comfortable. But what does it look like on the other side of that? That's very scary, because then my why changes, and I don't know what the why is going to be. And I've never thought about that, because I've never been able to think completely for myself. It's always been, initially it was what my parents expected me to do, and then I had to support my husband and myself, and then I was solely responsible for these children. And so what's my motivation going to be when that's not my why anymore? And that's real vulnerability for me, is opening myself up to the possibilities, because I don't need to stay here. I don't need to be in this house, and I certainly don't need to be doing the job that I'm doing on the level that I'm doing it with the intensity that it is. And so if I'm really honest with myself, that's not where my heart wants me to be. But what that looks like is scary as all hell.
And what does your heart call for? What is?
That's what's hard to answer, because I don't know, because I'm so stuck in the, I don't even know what you call it. That I'm stuck in the persona that I've put myself in right now, that I've almost never let myself really think of it. I see it, I said this a long time ago, many years ago, and I still, it's the visualization for me is that there's just a wall in front of me, and I have no idea what's on the other side. I just see a bright light, and I'm not even going to try and chisel away at it right now. At some point, I'm just going to bust through it, and whatever that illumination is on the other side, I'm just ready to receive it. But there's going to be fear there, because I have a big feeling that in my real heart's desire for expansiveness, that it's going to look like a life very different than what I've created so far. And I'm ready to receive it, but there's fear there for sure.
Well, I'm going to take a shot here.
Okay.
How's that? You have been an amazing supporter of your family, a provider. I know how much it means to you. I know how you wanted to give your daughters a great life and provide and a nice house, and amazing, wonderful. I also, and I'm going to incorporate this into what I'm saying, is the masculine and feminine. So you've really lived in that masculine piece of providing, taking, and there's never been a place to feel totally safe where, wow, the feminine in you, the allowing. Because when I hear you bang that door again, I'm like, she's going to bang the door again? How about allowing the open, because you've always been pushing.
Yeah.
And so it just came to me. So I wanted to share that with you about, and even for our audience, for me, about stepping, because you used the V word, the vulnerability, which I think is really important. And that feminine is the opening to that vulnerability and that allowing and seeing what's on the other side instead of forcing it.
Yeah.
Which I know would be very different for you.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to bring that up, just as a friend, and having this conversation.
No, you're absolutely right, and it's all I've known from the minute I've come into this earth, is to protect myself, and then to feel that I have to protect my children. And I guess that kind of pivotal experience that I had earlier, where I've learned that I'm resilient, and I really do believe that I'm going to be okay no matter what, and to just allow life to come to me and be open to it with a trust that I'm always supported, is what I look forward to. But it's a big learning experience to allow the feminine, for sure. Yeah. Yep.
And I'm kind of curious, is dance an expression of your divine feminine?
And that's the only place it lives. And that's why it's so important for me. Oh. That's why I can't live without it, because it is the only place of softness and beauty to me, other than in my real mothering, like the soft mothering. But it's why it's essential to my being, because that's been the only safe place for 45 years for the feminine to express herself.
And what form of dance do you do now that embodies that for you?
Yeah, so now I really only do lyrical, which is more of a modern kind of ballet. So it won't surprise you that until I was 25, I had only done ballet and point. So very structured, very rigid. I wanted to try other things. My mother said, no, you do ballet. That's what you do. So, shoving my big fat feet in those little boxes for all those years. That was my only form of dance. And then when I was an adult and I moved here back to Bergen County, I found an adult-only studio, and she didn't even offer ballet. And here I am, going to a jazz class for the first time in my life. And she looked at me like, what are you doing? She's like, well, clearly you know how to dance, but this is jazz. And I have are ballet shoes. I don't even know what kind of shoes you're supposed to wear. And And we've been great friends for 25 years now, and her whole goal was undoing me. So I really took advantage of taking classes in every form of dance she offered. So I took hip hop, which was not pretty to the eyes, hip hop, belly dancing, Latin, jazz, lyrical, ballet she wound up bringing back. And the funny thing is when I tried to take ballet, all of a sudden I couldn't do it. It was like so rigid that I couldn't even enjoy it. So I never went back to ballet. And then I did aerial yoga. That was part of it. And then I had an injury and I had to have spinal surgery, and the neurosurgeon told me that he never thought I'd be able to dance again. And I just wouldn't accept that was going to happen one way or the other. It's my vital life force. It was not happening that way. Even if I had to sit in a chair and just, move my arms gracefully, was not the answer. And luckily, with a lot of determination and muscle memory, I got it back. But since then, I've been really just a lot more gentle on myself in the forms of dance that I do. So lyrical is just a more expressive and modern form of ballet, I would say. And then I started taking modern dance classes too, with another dance company, and I actually learned modern. The choreographer for that company, that's called Embodied Dance, I was brought in as kind of the last dancer that she needed for a piece. And when I spoke to her, even though I knew her, we had danced together at this at Tribe Body, at this other studio that I belonged to for all these years. We had danced in the same room together, but I didn't know she was a choreographer, and she never saw me do anything but, what we did together. And she said, "So how many years of modern dance have you done?" And I said, "Not one day." And meanwhile, I'm supposed to be the last dancer in her piece that she's performing on stage in a few weeks. But she just had immense trust in me, and we shared this beautiful soul energy, and the group of women was so warm and welcoming, and I just loved every minute of the full expression of being a part of this experience. And then that opened me up to working in a different way through modern dance, and a much more expressive dance than I had ever done before. Being ultra choreographed and structured through ballet, you don't get to self-express, so I'm not especially good at that. But it's been a real opening, especially because now my body won't allow me to go back and do the things I did before. So it's really been a lesson in sitting in the gratitude of being fully engaged with the experience that is being offered to me, and accepting that that's exactly where I'm supposed to be, to bring out of me that feminine spirit that doesn't really fly in any other setting.
Yeah, you also are a health coach. So, myself being a coach for about 4 years, I've been a psychotherapist for 30. I experienced, for me, the act of service and in connection and collaboration with others as a feminine energy. I'm just kind of curious, what is your approach to your health coaching, and do you experience any of that there as a healer?
Absolutely, yeah. So interestingly, in my health coaching, I have attracted almost exclusively women as my clients, which is very interesting. And the way that kind of my scientific world and my health coaching world and how the whole feminine has come into it has been very, very interesting, because aside from working with the New Jersey Nets, I guess that's one big, massive mound of masculine energy. The individual coaching that I did were really all women who were coming off of health issues. So the fact that I was a scientist with a real grounding in clinical and biochemistry and everything that is very objective, they are coming to me after they had breast cancer, and after they have a rare clotting disorder, and they had 4 children and now don't even, know what this body is that they've been left with. So the mirroring of the experience where I know they're trusting me because I'm grounded in objectivity, but I'm seeing them in their full feminine energy. And it's been a beautiful exchange. And it's very comfortable, ironically, to be very open and caring and supporting in the feminine. And yet there's just enough masculine in it where they know that where I'm being assertive is also in their support, because they need to feel held, but they needed to feel cared for too. And that's really been a beautiful experience for me that brings out the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I can hear that harmonizing
Yeah.
that you provide. And I can even see that your face right now as you speak about it. There's a different glow.
Yeah,
and
it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know you said that due to your intense work with COVID right now, that's not a space that you get to play in or be that space.
Yeah.
So does that mean you're dancing more?
Right. I'm trying.
Every day?
I'm trying hard. Well, again, COVID shut down the dance studios, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't go through COVID and not have dance. This is terrible. And the Zoom thing isn't doing it for me, because in my living room, she's not coming out to play in my living room because I haven't created that space for her there. And so, both of these choreographers that have known me now for a number of years, like, oh, come on, you can do this like the back of your hand. I mean, you don't understand. I need to feel that space that is supportive of it. And my home isn't it. Like, my home is all work. And I need to change that. That is one of the things that life is going to look like on the other side, because the home I'm in right now has been all about work. All of my coaching has been done there. My corporate job has been there. Any work I've ever had has been from home. And so I need to equate home with something other than work at some point. There's pockets of places to work in my house, and there's no place to relax. So that's going to have to change.
That's my other question was going to be, like, where's your sanctuary?
At the dance studio.
Okay. I mean, it's here, but we often can foster it in a space too, in a
That's
intentional
space. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That just has me think about, for our listeners, we have a challenge every podcast. And so this week's challenge, because you brought up work, feminine, a lot of authenticity, the challenge is, where and how are you going to be authentic at work? What can you do, or something you can say to somebody that's really authentic in your work?
Yeah.
So we're presenting it to the challenge to the listeners. Thank you for bringing it up and everything you've brought up. And so that's our challenge, folks. We are the BTO Podcast. You can go to Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, everywhere, or email us, the Facebook, especially in our page, the BTO Podcast. And that's your challenge, to be authentic at work. Speak to somebody you haven't said something to. Bring something to work. Bring your gift that maybe you've been hiding. So that's our challenge for this session.
Yeah. Take a picture of yourself, perhaps being authentic at work, or something that you may say, and upload it to Instagram or to Facebook, something like that, Twitter.
Maybe even create a dance party
Yeah,
at work. Right?
And make sure you tag the PTO Podcast when you do that.
The BTO Podcast.
Yes.
So why don't you take it from here?
Well, we're going to do a little quick fire questions.
All right.
All right.
Bring it.
Here we go. And so this is just an opportunity to answer, right, as though you've been doing very authentically. It's just whatever comes to mind. So who is or was the person who had the most influence on creating who you are now, and why?
Other than Marc?
I'm honored, but come on.
I mean, my dad has had the most influence on me overall, but really the answer is my children, because they're the ones that opened me to who I am completely, because they see all sides. So, the kids, the girls.
I could understand that from being definitely.
Yes.
All right. Next one is, how do you define love?
Well, the word that's coming to mind is giving, but I'm trying to think of the way to frame it. It's a giving. It's an equal giving and receiving. That's the way. Full and complete giving and receiving. Yeah.
Well, there's the feminine and the masculine. That's the dance.
There you go.
Encompasses all of it.
What book are you reading right now?
Oh gosh, my eyes are so tired at the end of the day from looking across 3 computer screens. I don't read a thing. Is that terrible?
No.
Does that make me a bad person?
Of course not, with everything you have on your plate.
I look at computer screens for 12 hours a day. So the idea of reading is exhausting right now. So I don't read a magazine right now.
Are you a listener? Do you listen to anything?
No, I just go for quiet when I have the time to do it. I don't even put the radio on in the car.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. So, what's your superpower? You can either love me or hate me after
Yeah,
this
I
one.
know. My superpower?
We all have one. Or
Oh,
more.
I see many in you. So, what's your real superpower?
Empathy. Deep empathy. It's also my kryptonite.
Often is.
Because I feel deeply, but it doesn't, what I have learned over the years is how to just hold space with empathy and not let it overcome me. But yeah, that's it.
That resonates with me. Okay. So what is your secret to living a fulfilled life?
It's authenticity. It has to be that it is really every day, that every step I'm taking is really coming from the purest source. And I'm so hyper aware of this that as soon as it's not a decision that's really in alignment with my authenticity, it feels physically bad. And I try to be really aware of when I'm doing it and why I'm doing it. What position was I put in that forced me out of authenticity, that I would allow myself to be influenced in that way, because I feel so strongly about that and about my intentions being very pure and very deliberate and intentional is the word I was looking for. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to add one. What's your daily practices, or do you have daily practices to foster that space that you want to come from, that authenticity, that attunement?
I'm working on that. So the kind of the joke is, and my choreographer from Embodied Dance, she actually has choreographed around this. So my closet in my house, like, this is not a huge walk-in closet. It's just a closet. This is where the girls and I have always gone. We lay on the floor, and my younger daughter, when she was like 8, she used to do guided meditations for us in the closet. And we would lie on the floor of the closet, and that's where we talk about important things, and that's where we listen to music together, whatever it is. So I have finally created a meditation space there, a little sanctuary with all the things that bring me to me in the closet. And so I'm practicing going into the closet. I know we're all supposed to come out of the closet, but
It's Pride Month. That's what we do.
I know, but I'm going in, which is better for me. I've spent too much time out. And so I'm trying to develop a practice of just taking that time for myself to create the space.
Thank you. As we wrap up, is there any wisdom that you would like to share with the audience? Any life lesson, any piece of nugget you would like to leave them with?
I think, as we've talked about before, just remaining really open to all of the experience and possibility without being too firmly rooted in any one belief. And again, that kind of seemingly paradoxical existence that I lead with, being so deeply rooted in the scientific world and then more of a holistic mindset. It is that everything is just constantly changing. And if we remain too fixed in our thoughts, then we don't have the opportunity to experience all of the opportunity that the change is bringing us. So it's been my challenge, and I am super sensitive to people who are in that change resistant space because I see myself, my former self, in that. So I would say I think the universe right now is calling us all in that way. It's blowing everything up for a reason, and it's that life is changing, and you either gonna hop on or you gotta hop off.
Thank you. That's a wonderful lesson.
So much wisdom, Diane. So much wisdom. I want to remind our listeners about the challenge. Go to work, be authentic, share with somebody, bring something different. Maybe you haven't said something. Maybe have a dance party at work. Who knows? Want to thank you. You have been nuggets of wisdom everywhere. The authenticity, you talked about it, comes from you. That authenticity, that open heart, that empathy, that giving and sharing. They can all reach out. BTO Podcast, the BTO Podcast, Instagram, Facebook. You can share your accountability around work and your challenge. Twitter, Instagram, all of them. The BTO Podcast. Thank you again from my heart.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
It's been great. And by the way, my experience of you is that you do embody the feminine.
Oh, thank you for
Yes.
saying so. It's in there.
Your heart
She has
is
hope.
So it's so generous. So that's been my experience. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks for seeing me.
And thank you for joining us today for Beyond the Ordinary podcast. I am Claudine Chiarmonte, one half of the brother and sister duo, bringing you.
And I'm Marc Chiaramonte, bringing you Beyond the Ordinary. Live your extraordinary life today.
Always.